So the teams have been announced for Argentina versus Australia, and there is an awful lot of changes to talk about. What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. So we've already done the preview video for the Springboks versus the All Blacks. Seems to be doing really well. You guys are loving some of the Southern Hemisphere content, so I'm glad so many people are enjoying it. The teams have finally been announced. I had to wait like 5 hours later for the Australian team to finally be announced, but we have finally got it. And both teams taking a really different approach to this one. Lots of changes in both teams, some that I was quite surprised by, so they're going to be fun to go over. Now, last week we did get to see the Wallabies team just begin to squeeze past that Argentina team. To be honest, for the first half, it felt really sort of all Argentina. I had very little to talk about when I got onto the match report we did for that video. It was all Argentina for that first half, and then it was still sort of Argentina for the second half, and then you got to that final 20 minutes, and their own discipline, their own penalty count, everything just began to let them down, and then Australia just got on that front foot and actually won with quite a comfortable scoreline. So I thought going into this, both teams would probably need a bit of a shift up, try and change what they were going to be doing, but I wasn't really sort of expecting this. So let's start off by having a look at the Argentina team that's been announced. Now, a couple of changes along the way here. Starting off with this front row, we've got Gallo, Julian Montoya, and Gomez Cordella. Now, Gallo is going to be coming in this starting front row, going to be a bit of a shift up there. Now, scrums last week, I've got to try and think off the top of my head. I don't really remember either team really beginning to dominate. I thought they were relatively equal for a good majority of the game. I would actually say Argentina had the positive sort of start to it, but definitely went more towards Australia later on into the game. In the lock department, we've got Alemano and Lavanini, so no swaps up there. Hopefully Alemano can not get yellow carded, which I still don't really know what he did last week to get his yellow card. I definitely thought it was Lavanini, but unfortunately got a yellow card, sort of ruined some of my fantasy league for me. In the back three, then we have Gonzalez, Samso Kramer, and Pablo Matera. So no swaps in this back row setup, but only one swap in the front eight going to be in that front row. Now, I actually think the back row was playing pretty well for Argentina. We saw Pablo Matera getting over for a try. Marcus Kramer was just trying to kill people on the field. So I think not swapping a lot of the forwards is probably a good idea. It was just towards that second half, just the issues that came from lineouts into driving maul situations, penalties arising. So hopefully if they just get that nailed down, they might be able to hold out a little bit better. In the halfback partnership, change coming in here. Bertrano comes in the scrum half position. I like Bertrano. I might actually pick him over Thomas Cubelli. I like the sort of general running play that we got to see in the Scotland tour. So I'm kind of looking forward to see the Santiago Carreras and Bertrano working together is a partnership we did see in that Scotland tour, and they worked really well together. So looking forward to see hopefully a bit of running play from those guys. In the centre partnership, bit of a switch up here as well. De La Fuente remains in the inside centre, but Matias Moroni comes in on the outside centre. And I think this is probably correct. To be honest, Orlando not doing a lot last week. De La Fuente was actually all over the place, having a great game. But Orlando, quite quiet for me. I think probably worth a good switch up here. And then the replacement back three, we've got some switch ups here. So Imhoff comes in on the 11 shirt, moving to that left wing, which means Boffelli is going to move to that right wing. Probably, I assume, going to be remaining in terms of like the kick taking. I can't imagine Carreras is going to be taking over there. And then finally, Juan Cruz Malia in that fullback position. So a couple of swaps around in the backs is what they're trying to mix up. Now, last week I did say I was really looking forward to watching the Argentina back just explode and go all out attack and run absolutely wild. And they really didn't. They really didn't do what I sort of expected them to do. They were much more sort of reserved. They let the forwards do a lot of the work. They sort of made a couple of little breaks and just left the forwards. You saw Pablo Matera running 50 metres up the field. Where are the wingers doing this sort of thing? So I don't think this is a bad move, actually switching up these backs. Hopefully they've gone about this the right way and made the changes in the correct areas. In terms of the replacements, then we have Creevy and Tetas Chaparro and Sclavi or Sclavy. I've heard a couple of people do different pronunciations in the commentary. We won't even talk about the commentary last week because it was awful. Or it was over in the UK. Maybe over the Southern Hemisphere, maybe you had some better commentary here, but the Sky commentary was pretty poor over here. So Tetas Chaparro moves on to the bench from starting last week, but he's a skilled player. I'm sure he'll come on for the bench at just after half time and make a bit of an impact. Replacement forwards then we have Issa and Rodrigo Bruni. Not so I know. I think he actually was involved in the Scotland tour in a couple of games, but I can't think of his face. But yeah, Issa is a good player, so he'll be useful to come on. And then the replacement backs, we have Cubelli, of course, probably not going to be dropped from this team. Thomas Albanos and Lucio Cinti, who actually does make a good appearance when we saw him play in the last couple of games. So looking forward to see Cinti come on. I'm just really hoping we're going to see Argentina go back to what they were doing in that Scotland tour and using these backs and just having this free-flowing rugby and just people charging and face-first sort of thing. That's what I want to see going into this game. I don't want them to just sort of getting the lead and then just sort of try and hold it out like we saw last week. It's where problems begin to go wrong. Momentum shifts, and it sort of became a bit apparent that this Argentina team, if put under pressure, will just begin to give penalties. So they're going to have to really, really work on that to try and do better this game. On to the Wallabies then, who've also gone for some big changes. I really thought after last week they didn't get off to a good start. I thought they sort of settled into the game later on. I thought maybe they would actually keep with relatively the same team, almost in most positions. Now they've had that game time, just play that first game, come into the second game, bit of a different game tactic maybe, but just go out now that you've had a bit of team chemistry together. No, they've gone down a different route. They obviously weren't happy with how that first half went. They might have felt a bit lucky to have got away with that one towards the end. So some big switch-ups coming in here. So starting off in the front row, James Slipper going to be retaining that captaincy, of course. Still no Michael Hooper after he left just before the start of the first game last week. Falo Fainga is in the hooker position, and finally Taliala Tupou gets a start this week. So big boy on campus. Hopefully he can hold up the scrums. I've still not really seen Taliala Tupou make a big impact into scrums yet. That was something I sort of knew him for a couple of years back, but now he seems to... The scrummaging seems to have dropped a bit of weight. He's more of like a power runner now, so I'm really hoping he just gets that scrummaging down and we don't just see so many like free kicks and penalties coming from scrums. The lock department, Rory Arnold and Darcy Swain. I'm trying to think back off the top of my head now to the line out last week. I feel like it was pretty just 50-50. I feel like if you had your own line out, if I've got it right, I think there was one steal each in the line out. Well, that's the stat I still remember from saying in the match report last week, so hopefully that's about right. So yeah, own lineout's going well, but just got to work on being able to disrupt your opponents. That'll give you a great, sort of situation to put yourselves in. In the back row then, Jed Holloway, Fraser McWright or McRate, not a name I know, so looking forward to see what he has to offer, and Rob Valentini, who did play well last week actually, big ball carrier. Jed Holloway is stepped in pretty well. He was sort of the replacement that came in after Michael Hooper was going out, so Jed Holloway's playing well, but Fraser McRate, I'm going to have a guess, awfully sorry if I get any pronunciations wrong. I've never heard his name before, so looking forward to what he has to offer. Obviously he's taken over that number 7, big boots to fill. Michael Hooper's number 7 shirt's got to be a good player. We got another switch up in the halfback partnership. Nick White's going to be retaining in that scrum half, and James O'Connor comes in at fly half. Now, I thought Quade Cooper did relatively okay. I'm not sure if he picked up an injury in the last game, so maybe they're just going to move on to James O'Connor. I definitely prefer Quade Cooper in this starting setup than James O'Connor. I feel like Quade Cooper has such a better understanding of just the general open play. I think James O'Connor is doing a good job in terms of kicking to post stuff. I would just like to see him do a little bit more in terms of running with the ball in hand and actually doing tactical kicking. Now we've got another change coming in here. No Paisami in the centre partnership. Very odd. I thought Paisami had a really good game last week. Lalakai Fogarty comes in on the inside centre. Len Ikitau returning on that outside centre. I'm beginning to wonder whether there's a few too many changes here. An awful lot of names swapping around here. And then finally in that back three is going to remain the same. Corey Obetti, Jordan Pataya and Tom Wright. Tom Wright was quiet last week. I kind of wanted to see him do a little bit more. Jordan Pataya having a really good game though, so I think he probably deserves to stay there. There's an awful lot of swaps going on. I feel like some of the swaps that have come in as well are in quite like crucial positions. They're obviously sort of trying to work out that tight head to move to Taliala Tupou in. Obviously not maybe having the starting 7 that they'd want to, changing your fly half, changing up the centre partnership. That was arguably one of the big reasons that actually allowed them to get back into that game. Is there too many changes going on here? Looking forward to see what you guys put in the comments. And then finally, in terms of the reserves, hopefully I'm going to get some pronunciations right. So we've got Lonergan, Matt Gibbon, and Pony Fa'amuasili. Hopefully, sort of along the lines. Don't know the name at all. Going to be making his debut. Looking forward to see him. Nick Frost and Pete Samu are going to be the replacement forwards as well. I did wonder whether we'd be seeing a 6-2 split for this game. A lot of forwards involved. Australia are obviously going to be backing their backs. That's what sort of allowed them to get those scores in that game. So probably not a bad move. We've also got Tate Mcdermott coming in. Simone and Reece Hodge. Now, Reece Hodge came on last week. Didn't have a terrible game, to be fair. Once he came on, I thought he actually settled it. In fact, now that I'm trying to think about it, did actually Quade Cooper go off with an injury and Reece Hodge come on? I'm not sure if I can remember. It's a week ago. My brain is just clearly not that good at remembering. So maybe that's why James O'Connor coming in now. But Reece Hodge, yeah, he's got a good set of skills on him. He can play on the wing, he can play at fullback, he can play at 10 if you want him to go on at 10 if you really need him to. Yeah, kicking towards the post, not necessarily highest kicking accuracy, but definitely got good range, and he'll kick them over if you need to. So maybe not necessarily the strongest Australian team. A lot of swaps in a lot of key areas. It's going to be quite hard to judge how we think this one's going to go. In terms of a score prediction, what do we think for this one? After seeing last week's performance, I was actually going to be back in Australia for this one because I really thought they showed the cracks in that Argentina team, and this week would be the chance to exploit them. So many changes in this Australia team that seem to be for a myriad of reasons, as opposed to when looking at the Argentina team, I feel like they've made the changes on purpose. Oh, I'm really not sure. I think this could actually end up being a really tight game. I think I might actually ever so slightly back Argentina again, even though I was sort of set that I was going to be back in Australia for this one. I've just got to... I feel like the team is going to be more well-developed for this game from Argentina, from the changes that are made. So I'm actually going to say Argentina against what I even thought I was going to be saying at the start of this video. So Argentina to win, not by a lot. I don't think this will be by a lot at all. I'll say 3. I'll say 3. Argentina to win by 3. But of course, guys, what do I know about rugby? I don't know anything about rugby. I read the comments. People always disagree with me. Make sure you do drop down in the comments your thoughts on the game, what you think is going to go, your score predictions, all that good stuff. Of course, we do also have the Super Brew running alongside. So we have like one day now. I've got to go off now and very quickly try and design my my fantasy team. Make sure you guys get it all filled in. If you enjoyed this one today, make sure to leave it a like. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. It's free, it's easy, and just click a single button. All good fun. Really helps a channel like mine out. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.